Good morning and welcome to Tower Gardening Made Easy. I'm Sherry and this is episode 11 of Let's Talk About It. Well, today's show we're going to start out on a very serious note, and it's unfortunate, but it's happened again. So you're going to want to stay tuned. All right, so, whoops. Sorry about that. All right. So, yeah, it's happened again. I saw this post and I thought to myself, no, this was a few weeks ago. This must be old news, but it's not. And this is just another sign to ring that bell and let people know that you just have to question where your food comes from and you have to be your own advocate. So this person says, does anyone see the big recall on cucumbers? And then they go on to say it's really, nice to know that they don't have any in their fridge, and that the vegetables that they grow are only steps away from their kitchen. And I feel 100%. I do. I can't tell you when the last time I bought a piece of something at the grocery store that was, a tomato or a cucumber or a pepper. I'm growing them all in my basement. And that is my grocery store because I don't trust our food industry. I just don't. And I don't really think you should too. Now, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, but you really do need to be your own advocate for your own health safety. So right here on the left, this is what I was able to find on this particular recall. So I want to read it to you guys. A nationwide recall has been issued for cucumbers due to salmonella outbreak. The affected cucumbers were grown by Bender Growers, Inc. in Florida. So this wasn't even like a South America, out of the United States type of thing. We're talking about Florida and distributed by a Fresh Start Produce Sales. So a couple of weeks ago in the podcast, I kind of explained to you how this works. You have farms, you have packing centers, and then you have basically the distribution center. And then from there, it gets shipped all over the United States. So before it gets to you, it's been picked and harvested for weeks, and it sits in warehouses that are refrigerated. Between April 29th and May 19th, so far, 26 illnesses have been reported across 15 states, including 9 hospitalizations. Now, I know you think that 9's not a big number, and for the most part, it's not, but it's too many. It's just too many because these recalls are happening every single week. You're reading about something. Cucumbers this week. What's it going to be next week? Eggs again? And then the egg prices go through the roof. It's just too much. And these 9 people, you have to remember, they're not your basic person. They're the older population because they're a little bit older and they're susceptible to this. They're very young because their immune systems haven't really been tested on stuff like this, or people who are compromised, God willing. The recalled cucumbers were shipped to various retailers in bulk cartons and may have been sold individually or in packages. So basically what they're saying is they don't know. They are not organic, and they may be labeled as supers, select, or plains. Retailers involved include major chains like Walmart, Kroger, and Albertsons. I've never heard of that one. What you should do. Check your refrigerator for cucumbers purchased between April 29th and May 19th. If you are unsure of the source, it is safest to throw them away. Clean and disinfect any surfaces or containers that may have come in contact with the cucumbers. Absolutely. Be aware of salmonella symptoms such as diarrhea, fever, stomach cramps, which can appear 6 hours to 6 days after exposure. And then, obviously, if you really don't feel good, you want to contact your healthcare provider if you have extreme symptoms. So, again, just another reason to be your own advocate and to start thinking about this summer, now that we are in the season of growing one thing. Maybe you don't have a backyard, but maybe you have a patio. Maybe you could go to your local box store and get a little bit of dirt, a cheap container, and some seeds. And start with tomatoes or a cucumber or whatever you want. But start there and understand that when this recall happens, I'm like, I have cucumbers downstairs, or tomatoes. I have plenty of tomatoes. So start small, but think long term for your own health and safety. And then I'll segue into this. This person says it's starting to look like a bit of a jungle, but the outside garden is not yet ready. But she has towers inside, so she's got tons and tons of peas. I know that feeling. I just basically harvested a huge bulk thing of beans off of my tower, and I can't eat all of them, so I washed them and basically trimmed them, and then I stuck them in my freezer. So I know that I have this massive bag of Ziploc of frozen beans in a Ziploc bag, ready to use in stir fries, in dishes, or whenever I need them. So I'm just glad that I have a grocery store in my basement, and you can too. You don't have to have 9 towers. Start with one, maybe two. But they're like chips, so once you get one or two, forget it. The lid is off the jar, and you're gonna be growing, and you're gonna love it because it just if you like to garden, and obviously that's why you're here, you're going to see the proof. You're going to see things grow and how rewarding it is. And you're not going to want to not do it. A packet of seeds is $3, and that $3 can multiply really fast. And the great thing is, you're growing it without herbicides and pesticides, and it's all organic in your home. And you could be doing it with your kids too. So, please, people, take care. Make sure you grow in some of your own things this summer. And I will keep you up to date as to what's happening in my grocery store. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, this is the biggest rhubarb leaf and stem I think I've ever seen, ever. Now, I learned something new about this. The actual leaf part is poisonous. I did not know. I was doing a little research, and then, of course, I read this and said, really, I did not know that. I just thought maybe you could juice it. Um, but the actual stem is what is edible. And I'm looking at this person going, looks like a girl. She's probably my height, between 5 feet and 5'4". This thing is as big as she is. But what I love about this is that this leaf looks so healthy. So when you look at it, look at the edges. I do see one little area, but you know that the leaf is so big that it was probably touching the ground, and it probably got a little wet or something. So it's probably just rust from being wet. But the stem, I think, could probably make several pies. I know my mom likes to do like a rhubarb and strawberry pie once a year. Not my thing, but the fact that this leaf is so mammoth, I'm just in awe with it. And it really is pretty spectacular. So whatever they do with it, I hope it's super, super yummy. So let's go ahead and move on. All right. Oh, these darn lights. All right. So this poor person, any suggestions for getting lights off of the shower cap? Yes. If you watched my video cleaning out I think it was the cucumber and celery tower, trying to save it, I had to take those lights off. And most people are shorter than the towers because the towers are quite large and tall. And when you're trying to take the lights out, you tend to not go straight up. So you're kind of straight up, but you're to one side. And that's going to put pressure on that seal. Because remember, you don't want any water coming out of the shower cup. So that's why it fits so snug. So really the secret is two people pushing straight up. Do not use the wands, please, because you will break them. Straight up, balance it to one side, but make sure that the wands are super, super close to the tower so that you don't have, they're not flying all over the place because you don't want to crack them. So straight up, lift it to one edge, get your placement, and then go ahead and move it to an area that's safe. Put it on its side, and be sure that before you start this process, obviously you unplug it, put the cord on your neck or shoulder, as just so that you're not tripping over it, because you're really just kind of waddling to wherever you're going to put these. And I mean, it can be dangerous, and you don't want to break them because they're literally like $300 or $400. So please be really, really careful when you're doing this. And then remember that when you go ahead and put them in or back onto your tower, and then you reset them, you got to make sure that you reset that clock too. And that's super, super easy to do. But remember to do that because some people just don't, and they're like, it's the timing is way off. So you set the time to what time it is during the day, and then how many hours you want it to be on or off. So again, please be careful with that. Okay, so let's give you an update on the pumpkin challenge. So I did the very first video called Pumpkin Tower Garden Challenge Accepted, Growing Pumpkins Without Soil. So if you have not seen that video, please do. It is the new featured video on my channel. It's a lot of fun, did some kind of fun things with the editing to catch people's attention. And then in the video, what we did was we planted 25 seeds. So one seed per walk wall. So you can see right there, this is today that I took this picture. And I planted them on May 30th, so they are 6 days old. So you can see right there that they're just starting to sprout. They're coming out of their shell a little bit. Not all of them, but I would say a good portion. So they're in the nursery on the mat. I keep the warming mat at about 96 degrees. That's on all the time. The lights are on for 12 hours, and I keep them right over their little greenhouse top. Um, and I keep the vents closed for 48 hours. Then after that, the vents open during the day with the lights on and closed with the lights off. And when they reach a certain height, I would say once they've got those two leaves, I take the cover off to kind of get them ready to go into the tower. Now, this is a big seed, so I'm assuming that once they start to come up and grow that first set of leaves, that there'll be a root of somewhere on that bottom of the rock wall. It's just got like a bean or summer squash or zucchini. They're pretty aggressive, or even cucumbers can be aggressive as well. I won't put them into the tower just yet. We're only 6 days, so I really want to give them a good, I love to see roots coming around, or at least out through the bottom where I can wrap around like spaghetti and then put them into the tower. So I don't want to have to go through the seed process twice. So I don't think I'll have to because it's a big seed. But I've never done this. So I'm going off of like what I did for the melons, beans, summer squash, zucchini, and cucumbers. But I think they look good. And as you can see right there to the left, far left, I'm using the Tower Garden Rockwall. I used two different kinds, but for this seed, I only had the TG available. And again, I keep saying I'm going to do the video. I will. So part of that video is going to be looking at two different kinds of rock wall. And let me just explain this. Tower Garden does a really great job with this rock wall because of the port size, and it's good for the big seeds like pumpkins. But the one thing I don't like about this, in Tower Garden, if you see this video or watching, or someone is watching, um, whatever you are making the rock wall with, I don't know what your materials are. I'm sure it's some secret recipe. It's very prone to algae. The other rock wall that I use, it's more dense. It's not good for little seeds, but you can use it for bigger seeds, but it doesn't have the seed port that the TG does. And you have to kind of drill out each one to get it, big enough to put the seed in there. And then when you break it apart after it's wet, you literally have to spend some time trimming it because it doesn't break apart easy. So there's pros and cons to different rock wall. I just happen to use this one, but I know that when this goes into the tower, until the canopy is there, I will have to cover it, meaning the cover around the bottom of the stem and covering the top of the rock wall to block the algae. Because once you start to have algae, it's going to rob the nutrients and it's going to stunt the growth of the seedling. I just answered somebody yesterday, and they were growing cucumbers, and the cucumbers looked okay, the actual leaves, and they actually had flowers, but she's like, I'm not getting any fruit. And I go, that's strange. So I looked closer into the picture, and I could see that the rock wall was completely, I'm talking forest green. And I said, aha, that's the problem. I said, you have so much algae your rock wall is just nothing but a cube of algae. And so I told her what you should do is take some recycled pieces, or just take a cube and break it up, make a coating on top, okay, and then cover it with something, until you can order some covers. And so once you deprive the algae of either light and or moisture, it will die. It'll take some time, or you can squirt it with a little hydroproxide, a combination of those things, and then just keep flipping that top pieces over until the canopy of whatever you're growing is big enough that you don't need those covers. Then you can pull them off and recycle them onto another area. But I can already see there's right there on that second row, I see one, two that already have bits of algae, and it's only been 6 days. And I'm literally just using water. When I do seedlings, it's literally the seed, it's vermiculite, and plain old Newport water. I save the nutrients for when they're older and they can get in the tower, and then that's when they take off. So I don't do anything special with that. I used to, but I don't really see a difference. So I like them just plain old water. They're good. So that is the update. I will be probably down there a little bit later today, probably doing a live. So you can catch me down there. Maybe we'll go over there and take a closer look. But these are the two pictures that I was able to grab. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, all pepper plants need to be pollinated. So I love this picture, and I feel so bad for this person because, again, they don't know. Hi, all. I only have one jalapeno pepper in my flowers, and the flowers that grow and fall off. Any suggestions okay, so let me just stop right there. So the issue with this is that, first of all, let me just say this. Her plants look very healthy. So I can say that her pH is on point and her nutrients are on point. What's not on point is you have to self-pollinate. Take an electric toothbrush, disposable. They're like $5 or $6 at your local convenience store. And you just literally tap the tops of the flowers. It releases a powder. Do that over a course of a couple of days until you have no more powder that's dispersing. And then that's when you know that flower is then pollinated. So that's really about it. And you will get more peppers. They'll come. I mean, you're going to lose some. That not all will be 100% pollinated, but the plant, if it's super healthy like this is, it looks to be very healthy. So you're going to have tons and tons of flowers. I wouldn't be too concerned. I will say this. Let's go back to last week's episode where I talk about master the skills. So she's got some beautiful lettuce that's right there in the front. So she knows how to do her baby greens, her spinach, her lettuce, her collards, all of that because they're really, really healthy. Now, the phase 2 would be tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers. Those are all self-pollinating. Okay. Maybe you can, well, strawberries would be phase 3. Those are all really, really easy to pollinate. You just need to know how to do it. So stay at phase 2 until you master that. Do not go to phase 3, which would be like summer squash, zucchini, melon, and, crazy like me, pumpkins, until you know how to self-pollinate and what you're doing, because you're just going to get frustrated. And then you're like, I can't do this. And then you give up. Master the first phase, then move on. So this is really easy fix. Just go ahead and follow those instructions and you're going to have more peppers that you know what to do with and you're going to be giving them away to your friends. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, so over the past couple of weeks, I've been sharing different photos that have been coming from all over the world about mushrooms. I love mushrooms. So we did several weeks back, we did the Chernobyl, which was like that black scary mushroom. Last week, we did some that were just in the forest. And my advice was, if you don't know what it is, don't put it on Facebook asking for advice. Leave it alone because you just don't know and you could be asking for problems. But the mushroom that we did last week was the golden oyster. And I can say for sure that was. But again, if you don't know it, don't eat it. But these guys, I want to say this was in New Zealand and they were hiking in the forest. And this is not an AI picture. This is, I think, an actual picture. And the fact that they were bright blue, I was like, whoa. It reminds me of like hydrangea in the summertime here in Newport. They're absolutely stunning. But as I had cautioned last week, don't touch them. Take a picture, share with your friends. But even touching it, it could release an oil onto your hands and sending you into a psychedelic trip that you weren't really expecting. So admire from a distance, but keep those photos coming. I mean, they're just amazing. The different kinds of stuff that happens all over the world. I mean, I know when I worked in the Albany Street flower market in Boston. I got to see product that grew all over the world that most people don't get to see, and it's pretty magical. So to see something like this, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. There's an orchid that grows, I think it's in Florida, and it grows in like the southern regions, but it's really, really hard to find. It's called a ghost orchid. It's a white orchid that has very long tentacles on the bottom and I think on the top too. And they're like super, super rare because they grow up in the trees. And there's like a club that goes out and hunts this orchid. So I'm sure there's different people that hunt these mushrooms. But yeah, it's really, really pretty. So let's go ahead and look at one more thing. All right. So the magic of spring. So let me just explain this. So last week you showed some lady slippers and we showed that huge peony. So in my neighborhood where I live, it's called The Point and it's in Newport. And these houses were built, they go back like as early as like in the 1700s. And this used to be a massive fishing village. And the people who lived here obviously were fishermen and fishermen's families and they're teeny tiny houses. They're really, old. They're being restored. But what the point is known for, and I did not know this, is gardening. These women are the people who have bought the houses that move here know that. And so everybody has this little plot of land, with their tiny house, and they deck it out like with roses like this and peonies. So like when I'm walking the dog and today, I'm just looking at everybody's yard, like every single house. I feel like they outdo each other. They go and they plant roses or peonies or different kinds of peonies. And I was just like, I'm like a kid in the candy store. I don't really have a lot of flowers out in the front of my yard yet because we just bought it and we're doing some construction. But I will. And it's just refreshing to see somebody really, plant this. And it's just magical. It's just so pretty. I mean, it's just like that blush pink that reminds you of like spring and it reminds you of like maybe a June bride. Again, don't pick them like I did as a kid, but they're really, really, really pretty. And this segues into the next thing, which is get ready for this, guys. Like again, remember my neighborhood and how small it is and all little houses, and you find, oh my God, you find the darndest things. So yesterday, and I added this in last night. I actually no, it was Monday I found it. So I'm driving back from the gym, and a lot of so think of our neighborhood is like a 1 by 1 mile, and we're 3 streets from the water, and it's one-way streets, kind of all over the place, and some have stop signs, some don't. And so I'm on the street and I'm driving, trying to get home. And I'm like, whatever, trying to think what I'm going to make for lunch or something. And then I swing over to the left and I look on the sidewalk and I see this massive trellis, like massive. And I'm 5'4", and you guys can see the tower and how tall these things are. And I'm looking up in awe. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to say, but there was a sign saying free. And I go, yeah, free for me. So I drive my car home. I was like 4 or 5 blocks away. I park it to the top of the street. I was so like, I got to get back there. I want this. This is mine. And I'm like, I'm running back there as fast as I possibly can. And I just go, how am I going to get this down the street? This thing is humongous. So I look it over and I go, oh, thank God, there's screws. So I start taking the top section, I kind of lay it down. I start taking some of the screws out. Now it's not very wide, as you can see the bottom. The middle part, the trellis parts, it's kind of narrow, which is good. So I had to take the sections at the top out, but then I got to walk 5 blocks with these huge sections in each hand. Like I'm waddling down the street and I'm going, I don't care. And then, what kills me, honestly, is there is so much construction where I live right now because these houses are so old. Everyone's doing something to them that I was like, no one offered to help. And then I even asked some guy, some worker, I'm like, would you? He's like, oh no, I got to get back to work. And I was like, no problem. I don't care. I'm doing this. I don't care. I want this. This is mine. So I waddled it back to the house. And then my husband's sitting on the front porch and he just kind of looks at me. He's like, what is that? I go, it's a trellis. It's a round trellis. He goes, where are you going to put it? I go, downstairs in the grow room. He's like, He just shakes his head, because he knows me that I'm crazy with the nine towers, and his response is, "Oh, you do it to yourself." I'm like, "No, I don't. Like, I can't wait. I know exactly what to do because I'm an artist at heart." So I run downstairs to the thing, I wipe it down a little bit, and I put it back together. And so I go, "It's taller than the tower." So I adjust the wands just a little bit lower, and then I move the cucumber tower away from where it was, and I move it behind the sofa, as you can see here. And in my head, I'm going, "Okay, I can do this because I'm an artist." And I slide it right into place. And then I pick up one side of the tower and I bring it over the other, and not to hurt the celery that's on top. And then I was like, okay, so let me look at the vines, like how long they are, because I know it's getting really big again. So I was able to find two vines on either side that I could kind of, go straight up and, into the trellis. And I was like, ah, and there's little even, baby cucumbers that I had pollinated, and they're getting a little bigger. So I can't wait for these vines to get even larger so that they start to trellis down the sides and, grow actual cucumbers that are hanging kind of like the watermelon. So I was so excited, and I got a strip cord, plugged everything, changed the timers. I checked the pH and the nutrients. I didn't need to, but I was just like, I just want this thing to be so perfect. And then I was like, I'm going to take a picture. And so here we go. And then of course I'm like, well, let me post it and share it to my garden friends. And it blew up. I mean, obviously it didn't go viral, but it blew up. People were like, oh my God, that's such a great vine. That's so pretty. I'm so happy for you. Da, da, da. But there's always one person. Oh, so you're dumpster diving for things for your grow room? And I'm like, no, I was on the street corner. It's hardly in a dumpster. I mean, I get the term. I'm like, I wiped it down. Big deal. It's a trellis. It's not like it's a sofa. And then somebody else said something like, oh, well, so now how do you light it? I'm like, what? So I get the fact that when a trellis is down, it's going to be away from the wands, and that, the wands kind of have to stay in sync with the tower. I'm, I'm Miss MacGyver here. Like, I can do anything. And I was like, well, I have these, what I call spider lights in the picture here to the right. And I've got the strip cord. If you look to the picture to the left, on the bottom, I've got different, little slats that I can go ahead and plug in. Probably two sets of four would be perfect, do one on either side. And then they stretch out all over the place so I can put on either side, and that'll be plenty of light. I can go anyway with those lights. And I was explaining very nicely, of course. I'm like, yeah, I'll use the spider lights and just twist them to where I need light for the fruit. Oh, I see. I'm like, oh my God, can you just be happy that I found this awesome thing? And like, it was like 99% of the people were like super happy for me. And then they've got two people that were just like, I'm like, and you garden? Most gardeners are like super happy people, and are thrilled. But I guess there's all kinds, whatever. But I will say this, that Tower Garden saw it in the admin of Tower Garden saw it and said, "Hey, super cool, nice job. Can't wait to see the updated pictures." So I'm getting some notice from Tower Garden, even though I am an affiliate. Um, so it just feels good to be recognized, and that my grow room it took on this whole dimension of like, just, I don't know, like having this art piece, in the room that's just so pretty. And I mean, you can't go wrong. Like, the rug in the front is, gray and yellow. The flowers on the tower are yellow. So I mean, in the nursery is black. So it just fits. It was like karma. It was karma that I found this on the street, and no, I wasn't dumpster diving. I love that comment. All right, let me move on to the next segment. Okay, I saw this and I had to grab it because I feel like gardening, as life goes on, it comes full circle, and I'll explain that in a minute. So, you don't stop gardening when you get old. You get old when you stop gardening. And so I shared that story with you guys last week with the tulips and the lady slippers about, giving them to my mom. And obviously, my love for flowers started very, very young. And throughout my life, I've had various careers and done lots of different things, and they've all been somewhat fulfilling. And what I loved about this is that, I got a lot of education when I worked in the flower industry in Boston. And like I just said, I've seen product that, has come from all over the world. That just, um, yes, thank you, John. Exactly. It it was such an experience to learn all of this product and to see it. And then I really got into it as a designer, and I worked in some of the biggest hotels. I worked for Kimpton Group. So if you're familiar with like Hotel Marlowe, 90, I'm trying to think, in the Onyx, that's in Boston too. So those are like three of my big accounts. And so I used to do all of their inside stuff, their exterior stuff, all of their holiday decorating. I really got into it. I loved it. I used to do these massive arrangements for like their restaurants, and it was just amazing. But unfortunately, in 2009, when we had that complete crash, um, the hotels were, they were rolling up their sleeves and cutting corners. And unfortunately, I lost that account, which was devastating. But sometimes life pivots. And I went on my own. I started doing some big weddings and things like that, and I carried on that for a little bit. And then I took a break from it. So I moved, but I've always had some type of outdoor gardens and patios and this and that. But to bring it back full circle. So now I live in Newport full time and, basically semi-retired. And now I'm doing this and I absolutely love it. And I just feel like, who cares how old you are? I'm never going to stop doing this. I love it. I've got my grocery store in my basement. I felt like finding that trellis yesterday was just awesome. It was just meant to be. And then building out this YouTube channel and building this community of people. You guys are amazing. I can't thank you enough. You're just very kind, loving people who just have a gold heart, and that means the world to me. YouTube is a very difficult platform, and this channel is not monetized. Hopefully someday it will be, but I think in time that it will, and you have to kind of prove to YouTube that you are, a good person and that you will do the job that they want you to because they are professional, and they provide you with wonderful tools to do that. So I'm grateful and I'm thankful to do this and share it with all you guys. And please make sure that you comment because that's really how the channel grows, believe it or not. And we help each other as gardeners. We really do. And we don't get old. It's just a number. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on. All right, what's in your water? So I saw this the other day and I was like, let me do some research on this. So my water is city water, and my husband and I have always, you know, been cautious about drinking tap water because of the different sources and things that can be in it. Believe it or not, if you use, chemicals in your yard like Roundup and things like that, it does get into the water supply. So be aware of that. So we have a filtration system on our water, so to keep us safe. But to make this more about the hydroponics. Okay, so this basically says hydroponic beginners tips. Most common beginners mistake in hydroponic is overfeeding. And I had to kind of do the head cock and go, "Oh, what?" So basically what this individual is saying is that when you like clean out a tower, so we all know that I'm preparing for my pumpkin tower, and you just saw the seedlings, and they're not even close. But what I did was I went ahead and I filled the reservoir anyway, and I just turned on the pump so it's circulating like there was something in there, but the lights are not on, so algae will not grow, and there's obviously nothing in there to grow other than just the water. But what I found interesting, and the reason why I do this, is that it burns off any chlorine and things in the water if you let it just sit for a day or two. Now it's going to be a little bit longer for me, but it will, get rid of things that your plants don't need, that will harm them. And what I loved about this was he talked about like if you just test the water with your EC meter, there is stuff in that water. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go down. I'm going to check that out because I'm curious. And they were right. So even just plain water with nothing in it that I'm circulating with the pump through the top, through the shower cap to get it ready for the pumpkin seedlings, it registered zero point 0.2. So when I put the seedlings in, obviously I'm going to be doing it to 1.0, maybe just a little bit higher. I got to look at the sheet, so that I don't, give them too much too soon, and make sure that the pH. I want to say that the pH was wild with these guys because I remember looking at that going, it's anywhere from five. You ready for this? 5.5 to 7.5. That's the range for pumpkins for pH. And I was like, okay, that works. But the nutrients were a little bit closer, like a squash, like a 1.8 to 2.4. So, but the seedlings, obviously, I want to keep on the lower side until they get, a little bit, older, and not overwhelmed, because that will stunt them. So I love this low, normal, and high. And it kind of shows you the different scenarios between like the root rot and things like that. So you can do your own little research, but if you fill up your tower and you go ahead and you put your meter in there, make sure that you read it first before you add any nutrients, because you don't need to, again, if you go from that gold standard and you're not doing the EC meter, you're actually putting more in there than it needs. So if you follow the tower garden rule, which is the 20 mil, I think it's 20 mil per gallon or something like that. I forget at this point. Um, it's going to be too much. And the seedling is 10 mil per gallon. So that, because you're starting out at zero point 0.2. I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when they're seedlings, it gets a little wonky and you can devastate them. So you definitely want to be really, really careful with that. So look this up, do your own research, make sure you test your water, because everybody's water is a little bit different depending whether you're on a well, whether you're on city, sometimes even with the filter. The filter can affect, it affected when we put the new filter on, it affected my pH. It went the other way for like a week or two because it was just, kind of getting everything out. And now it's back to stable again. But yeah, yeah, just got to be super, super careful with that. So do your research. All right, let's move on. Okay. Critter of the week. So somebody posted this. My friendly frog is sleeping in the peppers. He's making himself comfortable. Love him. Yes, we have had lizards. We have had lots of frogs, and frogs have a sense of they just they love our gardens and they love our towers. They are like the perfect little condo. Hey, Rachel, hold on. We are just starting. We know which tower to choose. Right now, so Rachel, my recommendation for you would be to go to my website, towergardeningmadeeasy.com. If you are putting it inside your house, you're going to do indoor gardening, and you don't have a lot of room, there's two different towers that they have. One is called a home, which is that kind of a white bucket on the bottom. And then if you have a little more room, do the flex, because you're able to get a lot more food on there. And it has different options of definitely get the baby green section so that you can grow some greens on top. And then you've got 20 net pots where you can actually grow different things. But yes, you definitely want to go to the towergardeningmadeeasy.com, that link right there on the bottom, and go check it out, because it's going to not only provide you with your towers, it's going to provide you with favorite seeds. It's going to provide you with all of the essentials in terms of your pH, what you're going to need, and your free PDF to know what your EC, which is the nutrients are, and your pH. Um, it's going to give you everything. Like if you want to build a little nursery in a different room, it's going to tell you where to buy racks. And the stuff is not expensive. I really kind of sourced everything out to just click and go. And I'm not making any money. It's to make it easy for you to go to Amazon and just do like one big shopping spree, and then go home and put it together. But you need a warming mat, or you need the greenhouse lights and things of that nature. But definitely follow, watch some of my videos from start to stern. You can reach out to me at any point, Rachel. I'm happy to help you. I'm here for you. You can reach me through the website. There's a contact button that goes right to my email. The email is towergardeningmadeeasy@gmail.com. But again, it's on the website. And I'm here for you. Like, just keep watching. Watch some of the podcasts, because all these little different segments are little snippets of information as gardeners that I come across over the past week, and I just want to share with the community to, kind of bring us together so that we can grow together. And that's really important. And then I do these cute little things like our little critter of the week, our little toad. So if you don't mind him sleeping in your pepper, leave him there. But otherwise, you definitely want to take him out and relocate him far, far away, because he loves it and he's going to be coming back for sure. A couple podcasts ago, if you guys remember the lizard. I don't know what I would do if I found that in my tower. I'm probably going to be experiencing that relatively soon when we put, you're welcome, Rachel, our the two towers. We're building a pool and we're going to put this little shed that kind of is a makeshift little pool house. And I'm planning on putting electricity out there so I could put two towers out there. So I'll be dealing with the outside elements like the bugs and squash flies or whatever they're called, squash bugs, and little critters like this because they're going to be wanting to come to the, yeah, like the toad too, to the pool because it's a water source. So I'll be scooping them out and relocating them. When I lived up in Wayland, we didn't have a pool there, but we had a massive problem. They would go inside my little hose tank. It was like a thing you kind of roll up the hose, but it had a little leak. So it was like a little sprinkle. And so the toads would go in there and they would live there and they're really, really loud. So I would have to go underneath the hose, take them out, and then I walk them down street to the pond and say, this is a much better environment for you. But, a couple weeks ago, we had the podcast where was the one? Oh, it was inside the tower. So it was inside the bottom of the reservoir and it was just hanging out on the roots. They went to clean it, and he was just like chirp, 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 chirp. And he probably got in as a very small toad or frog, and he was eating the roots. He was getting showered like every 15 minutes. It was shade, and he had probably had some bugs that were flying in and out. So he had no reason to leave. That was like perfect for him. So the tower gardens really are the perfect condo for these guys. So even in your soil-based gardens, they're there. They're part of our ecosystem. Be kind and loving to them. If you're going to relocate them, be gentle. Wear gloves. I've used towels. I even had to get a bat out of my house once. It was so crazy. I just, he got up in the corner and I just wrapped him with a blanket and put him outside. The last year that we were there, I had this garden snake. He wouldn't leave because he liked the rock wall. So I literally had to trap him and get him and then take him out into the woods. And you can't do this because he was in a fenced in area with my dogs and I didn't want the dogs to be bit. So we just have to learn to live with these guys. But I love this picture. I loved how he's just sitting there, loving life. And so that brings us to this. So I love doing this. This is my Tower Gardening Made Easy pick of the week. This is the very beginning. I don't think I've ever seen a rhubarb leaf this big. It's amazing, and that is some serious pies that she could make, or whatever jams you can make with that. It's just yeah, it's pretty perfect. Last week we went with the peony. I really thought that was super cool. So, does anybody have any questions? I feel like I've got a good group in here that's like responding. So I'd love if you've got any questions. Definitely go back, Rachel, if you haven't seen the my find that was on the street. I found this trellis and I was just talking about it and how I dragged it into my house. It's meant for the outside, but it's now in my grow room and it's super, super cute. And it was just there. Nobody wanted it. It was a free sign. I built it and put my cucumber tower underneath it that we're going to stretch those vines and get the fruit to hang. And also make sure you guys check out the watermelon tower. I've got a time lapse on that and it's getting long, so I'll probably do a video on that very, very soon. So, any other questions? Dawn, it's so nice to see you. I'm going to be doing a live probably a little bit later, pruning out that tomato tower. So definitely tune in for that. And Rachel, thank you. It was really nice to meet you. And I really hope that you come back and you watch the podcast and listen, and definitely check out the website and check out the videos. And we'll see you guys out there in the forums. And it was a great, great show. Have a great afternoon, everybody. I'm probably going to go live a little bit later, like I said, tuning out, trimming out that tomato tower. My old lady, she's looking really, really good, but she's grown in real thick again. So I need to get some airflow. So we'll see you in a couple hours. Take care.